All right. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Ross, and this is the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I am very grateful to have this guy on here today. Uh, we just had a very interesting conversation uh, before the start of our show here. I was just sharing some very interesting things that happened to me before our interview got started here. So, and we just had to get our laughs on and get and vent because, yeah, I had a very crazy moment in the day. So, yeah, yeah, but
You crushed it.
we're but we're here. We're here, thank God. And yeah, I'm here with Kyle Smith. Kyle, you are a clarity consultant,
Mhm.
and you are the creator of the Neuro Linguistic Somatic Experience.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
That's
Kyle,
it.
for coming on the show, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it.
Very
And
much.
thank you so much. Kyle, what is a clarity consultant?
A clarity consultant is the the title that I coined, and what the clarity consultant does is helps encourage folks to explore their words, stories, and breath in order to either get unstuck, celebrate the wins, or create goals and targets that inspire us that we want to pursue and we can accomplish it in less time.
Okay, cool. And like I said a minute ago, you developed the neuro linguistic somatic experience.
Yes,
Talk
sir.
about that, brother.
So it sounds fancy. It's
It does.
at the base of it is a combination of breath work and story work. So it's combining the mind, the brain, and the nervous system. It's getting into the physical body and it's getting into our mind.
Mm,
And breaking it down, neuro linguistic somatic experience, uh, we start with the neuro, we start with the mind, mindset specifically, and there's not often a working definition for mindset that people can reference their behavior off of. And people know that mindset is important.
yeah.
However, we hear I'm working on my mindset. I'm working towards a better mindset. I'm working on my mindset. Like there's ambiguity. Mindset I define as the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves or our opinion of ourselves. So we can have a higher opinion or a lesser opinion of ourselves, and going to the words and the stories is a way to improve that. Then we go into the language, linguistics. That is what we say, think, and write. And those work as the word. That's the fuel for our mind. So prior to this, I was a personal trainer for 13 years. So I'll use fitness references.
Mm,
In the with the body, the building blocks of the body when it comes to nutrition is the macronutrients, carbs, fats, and proteins. The quality of the carbs, fats, and proteins is going to influence the quality of the body that we're feeding. Our words, what we say, think, and write, are the ethereal macronutrients of the mind. If we feed our mind quality words, we're going to have quality thoughts. If we feed our mind shit words, we're going to have shit thoughts.
mm, mm,
And then the
mm-hmm.
breath ties into the language as well. The breath is the language of the body. When we're breathing high and tight, we're good to fight. When we're breathing low and slow, we're good to flow. And so when we're using the breath and we're using the words together, with the body, we're feeling the difference. It's not it's not two talking heads where someone could be talking about a story or an experience that hurts, haunts, taunts, or annoys them. It could be a trauma. Uh, the story is going to be lingering. It's going to be You're going to feel it in the body. And if we're talking and talking and talking, then we're just reminiscing. It's a revolving door. It just keeps on coming up, coming up, coming up. So then we go into the processing of those stories. So we feel the emotions in our body, and our
Mm,
emotional body is timeless. Our
mm,
physical body is time bound. We cut our finger, it's going to heal. When it comes to our body, our emotional body, it's active. So rather than being passive, where we're just allowing a cut finger to heal, we're passively uh, not having to engage with it. For the emotional body, when we're actively engaging with the emotional body, with our words, with our feels, and noticing how it impacts our uh, physical or our present state of being, then what happens is we're able to take those take those pent up stories that are lingering in a timeless emotional body, because emotion, energy in motion. When we have a story or an experience or a trauma that's locked up, it's going to
Mm,
stay there until we process through it. There's no going over, under, around. It's going in and through.
mm,
And so we get a little, and then going downstream from there, the E. So the somatic is of the body, emotional and physical. And then the E is experience. And that happens real time. So rather than having two talking heads, we get the body and the breath involved with the stories, and we're able to process those emotions and those feels so that we don't forget about it. We actually learn to own it. So we own the story rather than the story owning us. We put the book on the bookshelf. We don't need to burn it. We don't need to get rid of it because that's still a part of our lore, our personal lore, our story, and our experience. So it's good to keep it and just to remember that we experienced it and we got through it. And so,
mm.
even if it's really a heavy emotion, whether it's a 10 out of 10 sorrow or a 10 out of 10 happiness, it's being able to down regulate, create a neutral feel so that you're just honky dory, you're just hanging out, you're just chilling.
Yeah.
And then when we're
So
chilling and when we're present, we're able to do things easier and we get out of our way easier too.
nice. So in a sense, from what I'm hearing, I hear a law of attraction type of vibe with this experience.
Pretty, yes. And then, so one thing that people get wrong with the law of attraction is the act of participation in attracting what they want. And so there is the law of attraction part where we can feel it and we can see it.
Mm,
However, this is an outcomes based practice rather than a problems based practice. So we have that law of attraction by getting involved in attracting it to us. Because I find that folks think of the law of attraction as being passive and it's just going to come to me while not increasing the probability and odd by doing the thing. So
mm,
it is very close. It just takes it
mhm.
a step further with actually behaving into it. Totally.
So it's not only feeling the thought, right? It's more of feeling the thought and doing the work to compensate for the thought. It's like you're doing two things at once to process that end result. You're
Totally.
bringing something into reality for you by thinking and acting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then
Yeah, I got it right.
you did. You first crushed it, bro. And then it's creating that story. And then if it's someone who's unstuck, where they are not anchored with their stories, that their ouchie stories, the hurt stories, the ouchie ones, when those are moved out of the way, then it opens up space to get people to declutter the mind and think about their thinking. And what that does is that opens up the idea of what could we do? What can I do? What is
Mm,
possible?
mm-hmm,
And that's one thing I think we overall we don't have a frame for, well, until now, a frame for, and that's how do we really go after what we want to do, and how do we think about our thinking in that process to keep us uh, within our road. Yeah, we want to travel on the appropriate roads, so we want to be sure we keep in touch with our thinking.
nice, nice, nice. And right quick, before I proceed, Kyle, I just like to let the listeners know, those that are listening and those that will be listening throughout this interview, if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask of Kyle or even of myself, please chime in. Um, we're here. We're here to answer questions. I'm just here chopping it up with my brother Kyle here about his work, and so far it sounds great. So let me continue. What was the story behind you getting involved in this work?
Uh, the really, really simple part, I did not like who I was. I
Mm,
did not like the character that I was embodying. Uh, I didn't have very much respect, care, compassion, love, and I also purposefully removed the self aspect, like the self love, the self respect. I truly believe that if we're showing ourselves love and respect, then we're going to share love and respect and we're going to receive it. So I don't think that there's a self component to it. I think that it's just one flow where if we're showing ourselves respect, we're going to respect others.
mm,
So I removed the self aspect entirely.
okay.
And so I did not like that version of myself. Yeah. I didn't like that person. I didn't like what I was doing. I was working on my goals, which is good. So on the
Yeah.
outside it was awesome. However, the inside I was not the person I wished to be. And with that, I made the conscious decision to make a pivot because I was in more pain and more fear staying the way I was than the idea of becoming someone new. So I had a very high desirability for change, very open for exploration. I made a post about it, uh, and it was like I found the original post amazingly, and it was a post where I was asking for help. It was a Facebook post. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen it or seen
Yeah.
a version of it where they're
Uh-huh.
asking for help. Do you know counselors, therapists, like whoever, coaches, anyone, mentors, mentees, like anyone? And that started my exploration into different styles of healing because I do believe that on the other side, we all want the same thing. We want that abundance, we want that happiness, we want that fulfillment, we want to feel like badasses. And it's figuring out which road, or not even figuring out, it's trying a variety of roads until you find something that sticks real well, that resonates with you.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So I was able to go through this process and find things that don't work well, find things that do work well,
Mm-hmm.
and this list became more and more and more refined. So it would be about from that point, it'd be 2016, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So it'd be about 9 years ago. So this was 9 years in development from that point to this point. And breath work, I've been doing for 9 years. That's something that's been consistent all across the board for down regulating, up regulating. It's my like active meditation. There's passive meditation where you're sitting in stillness, and then there's active meditation where you're getting involved in it.
Mm.
And so that was like a sweet spot for a while, or it still is. I actually did breath work before I did this podcast,
Oh, did you?
and oh yeah, man, it primes me. And
Good.
then and then last year I had a podcast going on, and I had a guest. His name is Ryan Sprague. He introduced me to Kimberly Kesting and Mark England. Mark England is the founder of what's known as the Enlifted Method, Enlifted, and they do story work specific. So then story work came into the mix, and then with practicing the story work and the breath work, it just made sense to combine the two. And for myself, I was like, this is something. This is like crazy for myself. And then from there, I just wanted to speak my truth per se, and
I
and share it out and share it out.
like that. I like how you do that.
Thanks,
Speak
man.
your truth, brother.
Yeah.
So I know that we talked in our during our initial conversation. You talked about how you went through your fit of depression and anxiety. Uh, can you delve into that a little bit? And
Sure.
what did you do to get yourself unstuck?
Mm.
Mm,
Uh, for so something that's interesting. I have a frame. I have a different frame on what depression and anxiety is. So I'll go on a little bit of a thought on this one.
all right.
So I actually find that you can see the themes of when people are the most depressed and the not even the most. You can see themes when folks are experiencing the symptoms of being depressed or feeling depressed. And I say the symptoms of, I don't want to say they are a depressed person because they're simply experiencing it. It's the symptoms, it's not who they are. And I think when people attach their character to a label, I am a depressed person, I am an anxious person, then it makes it so that there's no leeway, there's no wiggle room to be able to alleviate that. Now the reason behind that, I like the concept where depressed, deep rest,
Mm,
depressed.
mm,
And I truly believe this part where when we experience depression or the symptoms of depression, lethargy, low energy, fatigue,
yeah,
indecision, looking for things that feel good rather than do good, what happens is this is our present self no longer wanting to be there. So it's our present incarnation, it's our present version that wants to move on from it, and we're fighting it. And so when there's an incongruence, when we're doing the opposite of what we want to do, what we are pulled to do, then we find ourselves in a state where we're not feeling very good about our mindset. We have a
sure,
lesser opinion of ourselves.
sure,
And what happens is it goes into that process of cutting away the character now in order to allow the future character to come in. So when I was at my most down, when I was experiencing the most symptoms, is when I was lying to myself about who I was and not being honest about who I wanted to be. I was accepting who I was
mm,
in order to continue maintaining the reality that I was a part of because I
the
liked it
negative
more.
reality.
Totally. Because you can
Mm,
still like something that's negative,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yes,
And so with that, that tied into 2016 as well. And I pulled myself out of it by doing things that are difficult or hard that I didn't want to do. And that ties into developing the brain as well. So for depression, there can certainly be an aspect of the individual that no longer wants to be that person. And it's not a physiological death, it is a metaphorical death. It's a symbolic death. It's an internal of the self to let
mm,
that person go and say thank you for what that
mm,
person has brought to you and
mm,
then flowing away. Because depression is living in the past as well. And then anxiety, that's living in the future. And for
ooh,
anxiety, oh, dude,
mm, mm,
to add to that, you ready for this
mm,
one?
mm.
And to live in the moment is a gift. That's why it's known as the present.
Sound like master, sound like Master Oogway, brother, in
Totally,
Master Oogway.
dude. That is exactly it. Yes, honestly, that's probably one of my favorite quotes out of any
Yes,
animated movie ever.
ever. Yes, indeed.
Uh,
Yes, indeed.
totally. And so anxiety is understanding the anxiety. Anxiety is an increase of energy. It's to
Hmm.
encourage us to grow, or it's encouraging us to go and grow. It's wanting us to go do something. And we push that down and we're not using that energy, and that energy bottles up. The energy bottles up, it gets worse. So that's why you can have chronically anxious individuals because they're not bottling up their anxieties rather than understanding is there actually an anxiety or is it excitement? Because if when we think about our thinking, there's a couple parts, there's two or three. One form of anxiety is the boost in energy that we're actually excitement. So when we think of what are the physiological feels of excitement, we have sweaty palms, shaky knees, elevated heart rate, pupils dilated because we're getting focused. And
Mm.
then let's say you're a kid. There's two different adults. First adult, oh, you're scared. So then they adopt the story of fear to that excitement. Now you have adult number two. That's excitement. Now they turn that fear into excitement rather than having it as negative. And so anxiety itself is a boost in energy and it's to encourage us to do things. And that's why it's painful. It's to encourage us to move away from pain to do something. While many people bury that pain and try to alleviate it, and then they're not doing anything. Another form, so that would be one form of anxiety is that it's actually not anxiety, it's more like excitement. And then the other part is an incongruence anxiety. Now, this one ties into depression as well, where we are behaving in direct opposition to what we say we are and do and will be. So we're saying stuff one side and we're
Mm,
doing none of it on the other.
mm,
So although people on the outside may think, oh, yeah, that person's totally doing that, if we're not actually doing it, we know the truth. And we're going to feel anxious because we're not doing the thing and we know we want to do the thing. So our body's saying, hey, here's a boost of energy, go do this thing.
mm.
And so that's another form of anxiety.
Okay.
And then the last form of anxiety that I think most people equate anxiety with is the anticipation of future pain. A future pain that doesn't exist in the moment. We're just bringing it from the
Future
future and bringing it
pain.
into the present. Yeah. Because anxiety is living in the future, right?
Yeah, right, right.
And we can't feel, we can, so we come up with a story in the moment about a thing, and it could get us excited, anxious, whatever. In this, in this, the idea of it being something painful while it's within our capacity. Like honestly, I feelings are data. It's information. It is not an indicator of who we are. And so when we're able to feel it and understand it and think, you know what? I'm actually not anxious about that thing at all because I did all this stuff already. Or deservingly, I'm anxious because I'm doing nothing. And I'm scared of the future because I'm doing nothing in the present. So I'm anxious about the future that doesn't exist. So
Mm.
those would be the three types of anxiety that I would break down, and I've experienced each and every one.
I think a lot of people have experienced those levels of anxiety. As adults, we go through our worries about how we're going to get the rent paid, how we're going to get food on the table, how we're going to, supply clothes and whatever for the kid, life essentials, and in retrospect, I I really identify with the depression part because we oftentimes dwell in the past because we reflect on the mistakes that we made,
Mm-hmm.
the traumas that were unresolved,
Mm-hmm.
and we carry that. We
Yes.
carry that into our present, Kyle, and that fucks up the whole program, to be blunt. It fucks up the whole program because although we are here today is the 18th, but we're living emotionally 2 days ago or a week
Yeah.
ago or a combination of the above. We're
Maybe
living then.
decades ago.
Yeah, we're living then. We're feeling then. We're not letting then go.
Yes.
We're
Oof.
not letting it go.
Yes.
And once we understand that what happened happened and that what happened doesn't necessarily define us,
Mm-hmm.
that's the piece that we need to understand. We can actually let that shit go now,
We can.
right
Yes.
now,
Absolutely.
because it happened already. All we can do is learn from it, brother.
And create our own meaning to it. Yeah.
And like you said, live in the present because it is a present.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
man.
Master
Absolutely.
Uguay, man.
Yeah, buddy. The goat.
Master Uguay, man. I'm telling you that's some deep stuff because I think people do that. We carry baggage,
Mm-hmm.
and even for the anxious people, we're worrying about stuff that ain't even here yet.
Yep.
We're just anticipating the worst. It's like, why do that?
Totally.
You're
What if you?
creating that disease for nothing. It's not even here yet.
Yes. And then you can flip it. Is what does it look like? Because I'll put another part on this. So the past part, what does it look like when you celebrate your wins that you've accomplished in your life in the present? How would you feel?
Mm,
Same idea. It's
mm.
just taking a different story, taking the different source, and looking at the evidence. Because we'll look at evidence of undeniable proof that'll support or negate who we say we are. Yeah. And I think of it where there's a, I have a character construction framework where you and I are the primary. So who you're speaking to and who I'm speaking to is the main decision maker that's in the brain. We may have all these other narratives, all these other stories, but who is speaking is the one in control,
Hmm.
uh, unless they give it up. And then there's the two other aspects as well, where it's like the angel and the devil per se on the shoulders. There's a light wolf and the dark wolf. There's what I call him is the inner role model and the inner rival. And every
I was going to
morning,
get to that.
nice. And every morning, what happens is we have the primary as the judge in a courtroom, and then the prosecutor, who is the inner rival, shows up with an undeniable stack of proof that you are not who you say you are. And then you have the defendant, who is your inner role model, who shows up with another stack of evidence, undeniable fact, and proof that you are who you say you are. As the judge, we can choose which one we listen to because they don't interact with each other, they speak through us. And I like that. It's the old story with the kid and the grandfather, where the kid asks the grandfather about this intense conflict, this internal conflict he's experiencing. And the kid asks the grandfather, like, what is this? The grandfather says, within each of us, there are two wolves. There's a light wolf and a dark wolf. And they're both fighting for our attention. The kid asks, who wins the fight? And the grandfather says, whichever one we feed the most.
One you feed. Yep.
And the way that that ties into this frame is it's our decisions that are either going to feed the rival or the role model.
Mm.
It's going to be the decisions that we make that's going to make the rival who wants us to stay exactly where we are. All those the the pain, the resistance, the desire to stay in comfort, the it's okay, like this is good enough. That's the rival. The role model, that's the person that we have not become yet, and we are working towards it. And so when we have this frame, we're able to understand which decisions are feeding which character, because after that point, it's just math. Everything we do just adds up to where we are now. So we can influence that. The
Hmm.
thing that's the thing that's tougher about future setting or future framing rather than past framing is we've already experienced the stories, so it's easier to reference them because they're more real, even though in this moment they're just as fictitious as any other future thing that we can come up with.
Mm.
And so I think when it comes to, well, it's coming to that future part where folks will focus on the past, however, it's already done. Right now to the future is where the work is. It's not, it's alleviate and then it's growth. Growth.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Like I said, you hit my question, brother. I was just getting ready to ask you that. So thank you for that.
Like, my
Uh,
pleasure.
so in your practice, Kyle, how do you help people change how they think and process information?
Mm. It's first by gaining awareness of the words that we speak, and something I'll share on this because the simplest thing to do, and it makes a huge impact. And it's the decrease or removal of soft talk and more solid talk. So soft talk is ambiguous, it is uncertain. Uh, if there's oftentimes there can be a question afterwards. So if a statement is not solid enough, no. If a statement can have a question at the end, it's not solid enough. So an example of a soft talk sentence, I might make it to the party for 5 p.m. I could make it to the party for 5 p.m. I should make it to the party for 5 p.m. I'm I'm probably going to make it to the party for 5 p.m. I sort of want to make it to the party for 5 p.m. All of these have questions. Are you going to make it to the party for 5 p.m.? Question mark. So it's not solid enough. There's ambiguity. So then we remove the soft talk. We remove the probablys, the mights, the coulds, the shoulds, kind of, and we just say, I'm going to make it to the party for 5 p.m. Or I'm not going to make it to the party. There's no ambiguity, it's clear, it's decisive. And by being able to remove the soft talk, we're in a position to make decisions. Like I said, decisions was fuels the rival of the role model. And when we're in those decisions, what it'll do is it'll actually microdose decision making. So we become more confident in our competence in our decision making. We are able to trust ourselves to make a decision. And when we can make the small decisions well, we'll be able to make bigger decisions better down the line. So that would be the first thing, to be able to just alleviate soft talk or remove the soft talk, unless someone is truly undecided and they want to go check out their calendar, check in with their whoever they're dating to see if they have the time. Then that's totally fair when it's
Hmm.
true indecision. Uh, However, I find that the thing with soft talk is we use soft talk to uh, give ourselves a way to not make a decision, and sometimes to not be genuine and say like give like a I might be going, while in the back of our mind thinking I don't want to go. And then so there's the part where someone could go to the party or whatever, and then they can have resentment for being there because they chose to go there and they didn't want to, or they could just simply not have the decision not to go and be totally fine. And with that as well, I think that we use soft talk to not insult people. So rather than just saying I'm not going to the party and leaving it at that, and someone could ask why, and it's like, I just don't want to go, or I have something else. Like there's other options. Uh, what the solid talk does is it allows us to speak with honesty and truth, rather than trying to what's that word? Trying to not. I'll just go with this one. Trying to not upset the person by not showing and saying no.
Hmm.
I think that that's the easiest way to do it, because when we're looking at that soft talk, we'll see it in our texts, we'll see it when we speak, we'll hear it all around, and
Hmm.
so that also encourages us to speak more solidly, because there's fewer people speaking with, well, solidity. I'm gonna go with that word. I don't know if it's a word, but I'm gonna go with it.
That's cool. Sounds good to me. We during our initial conversation, Kyle, you mentioned something about a game called a should detox game.
Yeah,
Talk about that, brother.
yeah, absolutely. You know what? Honestly, if you have a pen and paper, we could actually play it.
Sure.
I could tell you about it, and then you can make the choice. So the Should Detox is a game that I like to play because there's language games, and this process is fun. I purposefully made it fun. So a Should Detox is the process to train people, or to get people to see the difference in how words feel. So we start with a should statement. I should go to the gym. I should go for a walk. I should do this. I should do that. I should. Uh, Another thing that I like to share is that if you want to have an idea of what someone's unlikely to do, listen to what they say after the word should. People will say, I should go to the gym. And how many people do go to the gym after they say they should? Fewer. So we shift it from an I should statement, where you can feel the obligation, you can feel the pressure, you could feel it just feels uncomfortable. I should do this. It's just not inspiring.
Mm.
So I'll give a certain amount of feels. So what I ask is describe the vibe, describe the feels after you read it. Where do you feel it in your body? And on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, where does it land for intensity? And normally it could be up there. And it's the same words I mentioned. I feel heavy. I feel a weight on my shoulders. I feel that like it's just not inspiring. So then we remove the should, then we add could.
Mm. Hmm.
Then it feels different. I could go to the gym. Whoa, that feels different. Even me saying it might feel different for someone.
Mm.
So then that's another, and these are translations. We're translating one word and changing the whole frame and perspective of it. So then we go from could to can. So I can go to the gym. I can go for a walk. can is way better than should,
Yeah.
and it
Because
feels
because
better
you're
than
giving
should, right?
absolute, you're giving the sense of absoluteness to the
Mm-hmm.
sentence, because
Oh,
you're affirming. That's the word. You're affirming that you're going to do that. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so
Hmm.
we like to go with a draft, craft, and supercharge. So we draft it where we wrote out the should, then we're crafting it where we're creating the translations where it goes could, should, could, can, and then we can supercharge stories. With this one in particular, we do like I can plus because. I can go to the gym because I have respect for myself. And then we supercharge it much more where we get the breath involved and we read it slower. I can go to the gym because I respect myself. Breathe it in, let it out. Describe the vibe, describe the feels. Where do you feel in the body? On a scale of 1 to 10, where's the intensity land? So it's a way to introduce translations in a way that's not heavy or invasive. And it could be with any sentence, any should. And it's a way to show that we can change our words real time. Because first it starts with on paper or it starts on a document. And then from there, it goes into just being able to do it in our brain. So now when I have a word come up, if I say a should statement, I change it to an I can statement in a moment and I feel the change in my body. And I'm more action prone rather than discouraged with whatever the thing was.
Mm.
It's tricking our brains.
Yeah, 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 and rewiring our brains to think positively instead of negatively. Yeah,
Yep.
I get you. I get it. I get it. So what's next for you in your journey, Kyle? What's on deck for you? What do you got
Man,
going on?
changing lives, that's the main thing. Specifically,
Yeah.
uh,
Yes, sir. Yes,
uh,
sir.
over the next year, I'm hosting community sessions. So those will be a lot of fun because we're in November, December. So I'm doing Celebrate the Wins edition, where we
Hmm.
look back at the year and we actually see where we crushed it and give ourselves a well deserved pat on the back for beating our own personal record for most days lived. And in the new year, I want to do future framing. So we're going with looking back on the year, celebrating the wins, and then in January, February, looking towards the year and what do we want to accomplish this year. So celebrating the wins of the past and then framing for the future.
Nice. So, what's your contact information? How can people reach you?
Well, super easy is the Instagram, and I say Instagram because I have a really quick response rate on that one. I'm really fast on there. That's where I spend most of my time.
Okay.
And
Okay.
any social platform is Dapper Dude Kyle, DapperDudeKyle, and so it's Dapper Dude Kyle, and there you'll be able to find links to my website. You'll be able to communicate with me, ask me any questions you want. If you do the should detox, shoot me a message, let me know what you thought. I love to hear about it.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool. And Clarity Consultant Kyle is my email if you're wanting to go with the old email route.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Smith, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Yes, yes, I do. Uh, it's my own personal mantra, and I've had a couple podcast guests with like, what's your piece of advice that you want to give? So this is the one I'm going to go with.
Go for it.
And it's my own personal mantra, and it is to keep up the kindness. And when I think of kindness, I don't think of it as a feeling, I think of it as a practice. We can recognize kindness, which means it's something that can be practiced and embodied and done, and it can be repeated. It's a habit. And so when we keep up that kindness, it's not just to ourselves, it's to others as well. And by maintaining that kindness, by bringing that kindness, by giving that kindness, we're going to receive the kindness because the external world's going to behave around us as we see it to behave. So if we're seeing ourselves behave with more kindness, we're going to see more kindness in the world. And our reticular activating system, our brain, is going to, our subconscious part of the brain, is going to look for more information without our knowing to support our beliefs. So if we believe the world is unkind, then we're going to behave unkindly because we're going to see nothing but unkindness. If we see kindness and we keep up that kindness, then we're able to be that kindness, and we're going to be able to see the kindness where other people may not. Keep up the
Because
kindness, homies.
you're attracting it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And actively participating in the attraction,
And
not
doing
just
the work.
passively. Yeah, and doing the work,
Doing
man.
the work. Kyle Smith, I greatly appreciate you coming on, my brother, and taking the time out to speak with me. I really do appreciate our time, and I appreciate this conversation, brother. I wish you nothing but the best in your journey and in your work. I pray for great success for you, brother.
Thanks, my man. Likewise. Yeah. Freaking slaying it, dude. Full support on my end.
I appreciate you, brother. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Remember, guys, uh, just take care of yourselves and make sure that your mental health and your physical health, make that a priority. Do it every day and do it first. On that note, I'm out. Kyle, thank you again, my brother, and hope that we need to talk again soon.
Absolutely. I'm totally
All
down.
right. With that being said, guys, you guys have a good day. You too, Kyle.
Will do.
My man.
How